I read somewhere that it was also the beginning of turning inward in a sense. So were those first songs more looking internally and kind of reflecting on?
Those ones, the first ones are actually probably more outward.
Okay.
I just don't think that I was really there yet. Like that first batch is sort of like Young Lay is a song about a stalker, basically, true life tales kind of thing. And then Don't Mind the Lion is sort of this like whimsical fairy tale idea about, you know, illusions you create about somebody when you first meet them and start to develop a relationship with them. And then Started a War is also kind of about male-female relationship dynamics. So that's kind of all outward stuff, more, I guess, emotionally driven, like human relationship stuff. So I think it was sort of later, like the second batch of songs to the record is really when I started to dig into the like uglier internal, external stuff. But
What did you discover about yourself?
well, the biggest thing I think is really like a sense of personal responsibility. Is that, you know, the world outside will always look like your insides are. So if you kind of approach everything with a shitty attitude and sort of a negative perspective, you are going to attract those things, and the world is going to appear that way to you. And that is both kind of heavy thing to take on, because you're like, oh, I have full responsibility for how I feel and how I contribute to the world all the time. But it's also liberating, because you're like, oh wait, but I also have the power, you know?
Right.
I can transform myself internally, and that will affect the world around me. That will affect how I see the world. So that's really the biggest thing. It's such a simple concept, because a lot of, you know, I think a lot of people get up and like, everything's a disaster. What can I do? I need to get out there. Like, I need to take down the leaders of the world, and I need to pick up all the trash, and I need to change everything. And it's like, no, that's way too big of a task. Right. What I need to do is I need to get myself right, and change the way I'm living, treating people, eating, things I'm consuming, the way that I'm acting. And then you kind of start to see the world changing itself around you. And that's been the craziest thing, honestly, because I had no idea, really.
Is it difficult then to find a balance between that anger and frustration on the one hand and kind of that more peaceful and kind of inwardly attitude?
It really is, and I think that's kind of what I struggle with now, with a lot of the current records stemming from frustration, but internally I found a lot more peace and compassion in the way that I look at things. So I do think that there's a little bit of conflict at times, and it comes out when touring. Like, you know, you get burnout already, and you get emotional, and you get around people all the time, and you're playing the same songs, and then you get to a point where you're just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, who am I? And then, it always passes. So it is a balance. But like that being said, I'm excited to make the next record that's a little bit more, you know, where we're at now and where I'm at.
Well, I wanted to ask, because in a sense you could say that in comparison to 3 years ago, the world now is a little bit more hectic, or at least we perceive it that way.
It is, yeah, perceived for sure.
So a record like Have You Met Them, you probably wouldn't write now then?
No, probably not. You know, not to say that there is an aggression to the songs, but it's to the newer songs, but there's also just like this underlying sort of compassion and human understanding that I just didn't have before. I was purging all that stuff back then. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how it goes. I mean, trying to find the balance, you know, trying to put it all into the songs.
But have you already? I assume you keep writing. So have you already noticed some things about how you write and what you're writing about?
I have. Yeah, it's a lot less like finger pointing and a lot. It's compassionate is the word that I would use for a lot of the things that have been written in, you know, recently in the last year or so. And it's still you know, there's still a level of confrontation, but it's with like a we're all in this together kind of perspective to it. It's like heavy meta is like, this is everything that's wrong with everything, and then this one's to be like, okay, now what can we do about it, sort of thing. I think it's more constructive to be that way. So.
And you mentioned this sense of compassion, and that moving out of Philadelphia was something that kind of gave way to that. But was there a particular thing that helped you kind of get to this realization, or was it just something that happened gradually?
I would attribute a lot to it, that it's a very heavy, important, beautiful relationship that I was in for a few years, my last few years in Philadelphia. It was definitely some sort of cosmic thing that we came together because her and I kind of walked each other across very important bridges in our lives. And she struggled with a lot of things that were very heavy and foreign to me, and I was sort of also that to her. So it was this crazy thing where we came together and we lived together and we went through a lot of really dark periods and heavy things. And from that, you know, she ended up going and living in the rainforest in South America for a year and like living in a spiritual community and like working with all these ayahuasca and plant medicines and living in like, you know, with spiritual people. And so she was able to heal herself and share a lot of these things with me. And then when we were together, I was always trying to like heal her and like give her light. And so it's this crazy full circle thing where we got through this thing together and we were able to learn so much. And you know, now we're just incredible friends and we still keep in touch, but it's pretty insane the transformation that we went to. So I attribute it a lot to that. I mean, watching another human being literally transform their life, total 360 over the course of a couple of years is like, it's given me sort of like a sense of faith and an understanding of the universe that there's something bigger. And yeah, I'm super grateful for it now, even though it was really hard.
Yeah, but and I suppose then also seeing that, because you mentioned self-reliance, it made you realize that you do have that power and do have that control.
Absolutely. Anything's possible. It really is.
And I want to get back to the music, obviously. So musically, what has your approach or your ambition changed because of kind of that realization, or?
Well, that's just what's conflicting too. Is that you know, I'm kind of of the mind like I think a lot of the material world and a lot of the music industry pursuit is bullshit.
Right.
It's super plastic. I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, I'm part of that. I'm a part of like the bullshit because it's, you know, it's just there's levels of superficial and there's a lot of vanity in it. And so to be creating from a place that's not that, but within the realm of that is a very strange thing. And I can't say that it necessarily helps with my ambition. I mean, you know, the thing that really keeps me going, more so than anything, any kind of opportunity or quote-unquote success, financial or you know, popularity-wise, the only thing that I really care about is like kids that write me emails saying that they were going to kill themselves and they heard our record and they didn't. Or people that write me messages online that I don't know and they're like, you know, I heard this song and I saw your show and like it gave me this sense of life. You know, they just made. That's what it's all about for me. I mean, at this point, it's like it's kind of a mission to get out there and serve people. I mean, that's the only reason I can do it. If I didn't have that, my ambition would probably be gone because it's not an easy pursuit, and I don't really care about the rest of the stuff. So it's seeing that impact that music can have on people is the only thing I care about, and that's why I'll continue doing it. And, you know, what I said about that, like a kid actually wrote me an email saying this insane, long, emotional letter about, you know, he was at the end of his rope and he was going to off himself, and then a friend of his showed him our record, and he's like, I'm not even kidding, man, like, saved my life, like, this is the shit that I live for. And I wrote back to him and I said, here's the deal. Like, if you want to kill yourself, listen to our record. And if I want to kill myself, I'm going to read your letter because this is what it's all about. And
Right.
so, yeah, that's all I got. That's
Finally then, because you mentioned kind of how you want to affect the people, the audience, fans. What do you get out of it, and especially performing live? What do you get out of performing live? And is it a form of catharsis or a release in a sense?
absolutely. It's definitely it's definitely a cathartic thing. It's also just this playing live is like one of the most in the moment places on earth to me. Just a lot of weird, random, off the cuff things will happen. There's level of improv to our shows that we like, to keep it kind of uncomfortable and like
Right.
incorporating weird antics and stuff that's different every night. So it's just this incredible platform to be able to just kind of like get weird and see what happens and just be in the moment for 45 minutes to an hour a day and not worry about anything else. It's cool.
All right.
Good.
Ron, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you,
That was
man.
great. I hope I didn't talk too much. I know
No, it's perfect.
I talk,
Perfect.
ramble a lot, but